Welcome back to our next edition of Studio C70 on Election Day. We are very excited to continue these interviews throughout the day. If you have not yet voted, please make sure to go do so. You have until 8 p.m. tonight. You have the same amount of time to return in your mail-in ballot. But because this cycle is focused on municipal and judicial elections, we are very excited to be joined by Judge Robert Cindrich. Who served as district judge for the United States District Court for the Western District of Pennsylvania. And then Judge Cindrich is also a part of the Pennsylvania Advisory Council for the wonderful organization Keep Our Republic. And so, Judge Cindrich, thank you very much for joining us today. We are excited to talk about the judicial elections that Pennsylvanians are going to the polls to vote in, but also more importantly, just to talk about the judiciary more broadly and the importance of an independent judiciary and what Pennsylvanians, how their lives are impacted. So thank you for being here. Really appreciate your time this morning.
Thank you, Justin. It's a pleasure to be here.
Wonderful. First, I just want to ask, could you give us a little bit of background on Keep Our Republic and the work that you all do, and then how you're...
Yes. The Article 3 Coalition is actually an initiative that was created by Keep Our Republic, which is a nonpartisan 501c3 organization that has lived up to its name and its mission through its work on election integrity, public education, and now in support of judicial independence, which is what we're talking about today. The Article 3 Coalition is a network of former federal judges committed to defending the integrity and independence of our courts and to upholding the principles of the United States Constitution. We're stepping up now because the independence of the judiciary, the separation of power, and the rule of law are all under attack. This is a threat to our American democracy. Current judges cannot speak out due to their ethical obligations as sitting judges. We can, and we will, whenever the courts are attacked. Keep Our Republic got its start by defending the electoral process, by explaining how elections really work, clearly, calmly, factually, and impartially. An independent judiciary, like elections, are the bedrock of our democracy. So Keep Our Republic and the Article 3 Coalition are doing the same thing for the courts as we did for elections, cutting through the noise to help people understand the judiciary's critical and essential role in our democracy. Both missions are about transparency and education, not politics. When citizens understand the systems that safeguard our republic, we think they're much harder to mislead.
Nice. One of those, so you just talked about this a little bit, but would love to go a little bit more into an independent judiciary and the value of that. You've warned that without an independent judiciary, we cease to be a nation under the rule of law. So what does judicial independence look like in practice, and why is it so essential to our constitutional system?
Judicial independence means simply that judges apply the law based upon facts, not based upon pressure from political parties or on the basis of public opinion or any powerful interests. In practice, that means that a judge must be able to rule fairly, even if the outcome is unpopular and even if the litigants are influential and high-powered. One day, it might be you or your family in a courtroom. You want your case to be decided on its merits, not on who yells the loudest outside the courtroom or who holds office at the time. Judicial independence is the firewall that keeps politics out of our personal rights, whether that's your right to vote, your freedom of speech, your right to worship how you choose, your property, your liberty, or equal protection under the law. When we lose those protections, we lose protection from abuse of power.
So some people assume judges are political figures like elected officials, and unfortunately in Pennsylvania, we elect our judges like what Pennsylvania's doing today instead of some states which do, merit-based appointment or just appointments from elected officials. How would you explain the difference between what judges do when deciding cases and what politicians do when making policy?
Well, politicians are elected to represent constituents and to take positions based upon public opinions and on their
Mhm.
political platform. That's their job. And we should have no quarrel with that. That's what they're elected to do. Judges, by contrast, are bound to the Constitution and the law, even if the result is unpopular or doesn't match their own personal views, which happens. In fact, we wouldn't need a constitution if everything was decided on the basis of what was in vogue or what was popular. The
Mhm.
Constitution is specifically designed to protect us from all forms of oppression, especially from popular opinion and those who are in power. When we blur this line, we start to believe that every court is just another political ploy, and that's corrosive. Courts are supposed to be a place where fairness is blind, not tilted by polls or public pressure. If judges become seen as just more politicians, then respect for decisions disappeared, and we're left with chaos and confusion instead of resolution and order.
Nice. I wanted to go back to the coalition real fast. One of the major goals of the coalition, of the Article 3 coalition, is public education. And so, what are some of the biggest misunderstandings that the coalition is hoping to correct about how courts work and the role that judges play in protecting people's rights?
Well, I think the most popular misconception is that judges are just more political actors in black robes pushing
Mhm.
their own personal ideologies. But that is not how the system works. Most federal judges spend their careers and their lives interpreting very complex laws in good faith, bound by precedent. That means decisions made by higher courts like the Supreme Court or the intermediate courts of appeals. And they're bound also by legal standards. They are trained to apply the law as Congress has made it, not write it. That's particularly true in the case of a trial judge. They do not make law or policy. They interpret and they apply the laws that Congress has enacted, or they apply the rights that come from the Constitution. Their decisions are not precedential, meaning it binds no one except the litigants in the case, and they're not subject to appeal. They are subject, I'm sorry, to appellate court appeal, and ultimately those cases can end up in the Supreme Court. So the district court is a starting point. But when citizens lose trust in courts, they lose faith in the last neutral places left in our democracy. Courts are where people go when everything else has failed, when their rights are violated, laws are unclear, or power is being abused. If we stop believing in the legitimacy of court rulings, we risk people taking justice into their own hands. We need to have courts respected and not misrepresented.
Great thought. Yep. It's foundation to our system, right? You've
Yes.
urged citizens to stay engaged by attending public meetings, talking to their neighbors, and speaking up for the rule of law. Why is that kind of participation so important to keeping our democracy strong?
And thank you for asking this question. I think we assume too much as citizens about the perpetuation of this democracy and this republic. But the Constitution is not a perpetual motion machine. It stops working if we stop working to uphold it and its values. And by we, I don't mean just judges. I mean all of us, the entire citizenry. And that takes some effort. It means going to public meetings. It means voting in elections, listening to people who disagree with you, and standing up when your institutions are under threat. If we want to keep this republic, as Benjamin Franklin warned, we have to tend it. Civic engagement is how we protect the rights that we care about, how we hand something over to the next generation of Americans. The judiciary cannot stand alone. Courts don't command armies. They don't control budgets or they don't make laws. Their authority comes from public respect for the rule of law, and that starts with the people. Civic engagement is how Americans hold power accountable and ensure the values of the Constitution live beyond the courtroom. I have said before, and I believe, that in the end, the biggest threat to the future of this republic is we the people. It is apathy. My hope is that if the citizenry can be better educated about proper function and duties of judges and our system as a whole, they will see that the threats to judges is really a threat to their own rights as protected by the courts.
I think that's a great point, something to leave all of our viewers and every voter in Pennsylvania and throughout the country is elections are just the first start of democracy and engagement, and you have to get involved and roll up your sleeves the other 364, 363 days a year outside of just our primary and general election days, right? So,
Absolutely. I just think it's something that we, as citizens, we have enjoy the benefits of living in a democracy and in this country. We also have a duty that corresponds with those benefits. That's the duty to be a citizen, to participate, to be a part of democracy. So yes, I agree with you, Jeremy. Justin, excuse me.
no worries.
Jeremy's one of my colleagues on the bench.
No problem at all. No problem. Is there anything else that we didn't ask you or that we didn't talk about that you really want to highlight this morning as people go to the polls to retain either state level or county or local level justices or in the municipal races that are happening? Anything that you want to highlight for folks that we haven't discussed?
There is. There is. One of the reasons why our whole group came together is because, as I've indicated, sitting judges can only decide the cases in front of them. Their rules and the ethics prevent them from speaking out. So we're trying to be former judges, and hopefully that means something. There are 50 of us to help those sitting judges. One of the big problems we have is intimidation of the court. Now, there's a line between healthy criticism and intimidation. In any free society, people should absolutely debate and critique judicial decisions. That's how democracy works. They appeal them. That's how democracy works. But when criticism turns into intimidation or threats of violence or public harassment or calls for impeachment simply because someone didn't like the outcome of that case, we've crossed a line. In short, criticizing a judge's ruling, the legal analysis, maybe the policy ramifications that stem from a ruling, that's fine. Maybe even warranted in some cases. But personal attacks against the judge, threats, that is inappropriate. Beyond the individual impact on a judge. Personal attacks, calling a judge a loony or a leftist, that degrades public trust in the judiciary, especially when it comes from people in high offices. If judges start to fear for their families, they may hesitate to make the tough, necessary decisions that protect all of us. Imagine a judge refusing to enforce your rights because the judge feared political backlash or personal harm to him or his family or her and her family or impeachment. That's how the rule of law unravels. We must protect the ability of judges to rule with integrity, not pressure them to conform to partisan or mob expectations. Every citizen is entitled to a judge who rules without fear or favor, as the Constitution commands.
I think that's a great thing for us to leave on is the value of that the difference between active engagement and disagreement, but then intimidation. There's a huge line there, and we cannot cross that if we want to have a functioning democracy. So thank you, Judge Cindrich. We really appreciated your time and uh, really support the work that you all are doing to keep our republic and really appreciate your service to our Commonwealth and to our country through your career. So really appreciate your time this morning.
Thank you, Justin, and thanks to the fine people of 70 for sponsoring this talk.
Mhm. Thanks a lot, Your Honor. Have a good one.